First, when do we need to use the clean function? When we apply filters in components or dashboards. The scope of our aggregated calculations, such as totals or percentages, becomes limited to the partial data rather than the all data. Let's take a simple example. Calculating the total annual order amount. The data we're using comes from the files available below the video lesson, and all our examples are based on this data table. The uploaded data contains sales orders from January to July 2022. To calculate the total annual order amount, one might initially think of using some AG order amount. It gives a result of 1.57 million. However, once we drag in the order date field and view the data by year and month, this column no longer shows the total annual amount. Instead, it becomes the total order amount for each month influenced by this dimension. So how do we remove the effect of dimensions? This is where the def subfunction comes into play. Think about how to write this using the def function. Similarly, we start with an aggregation. The second parameter specifies the dimension we want to exclude. We'll omit the third parameter for now. As you can see, this column now correctly displays the total annual order amount as intended. Now, when do we use the clean function? Suppose we add a filter in the filters area. For example, fixing the order date to only January data. In that case, the calculated column no longer shows the total annual order amount but rather the total for January. How can we ensure this column remains unaffected by the filter and still shows the total annual order amount? This is where the clean function is needed. Again, using some AG and excluding the order date dimension, we can apply the clean function in the third parameter, the filter parameter, to remove the influence of the order date filter. As a result, the calculation remains unchanged, continuing to reflect the global total annual order amount of 1.57 million. Let us return to the slide and compare these three calculation methods. As you can see, the purpose of the clean function is to remove filtering conditions applied at the component or dashboard level. Now, let's look at the calculation logic in detail. First, note that clean can only be used within def add, def subfunctions in version 6.1 or higher. As an independent filter condition, clean has two usage patterns. The first is to specify specific field within the parentheses, with multiple fields separated by commas. The second is to write all inside the parentheses, which means ignoring the filtering effects from all fields. There are some important details to note when using clean. First, when clean is used within a component, it works against filters applied via the filter panel as we just demonstrated. It also supports drill down operations. If you are not familiar with drill down, you can view the corresponding help documentation. Next, when clean is used at the dashboard level, please note that it does not take effect against filters triggered by linkages or jump actions. For example, if a dashboard has two components, and you click on January 2022 in the first grouped table, this action will link to and filter the second component, causing it to only calculate data for January 2022. In this case, even if we use the clean function to calculate the total annual order amount, it will not work as intended. The calculation will still be limited to the partial data scope, that is only January 2022. Another detail about clean is that filters at the same level remain effective. This might sound a bit abstract, so let's understand it in context. Suppose we need to calculate the monthly order amount, the total order amount and their percentage. Think about how the monthly order amount is calculated. We can write it using def function. First, some AG order amount. Second, use month as the dimension. And third, leave the filter parameter blank for now. For calculating the total order amount for the first half of the year, We can omit the dimension and add a filter for month less than 7. At the same time, we want to ensure the denominator remains fixed, so we also write clean month in the third parameter. Here clean month and month less than 7 are filters at the same level, so the filter on the right side of clean still applies normally. The role of clean is specifically to remove filters applied at the dashboard or component level. Next, let's introduce clean widget. Clean widget is used to clear filtering effects generated within a component and can only be used in def add, def sub functions in version 6.1 or higher. As an independent filter condition, the key difference from the clean function is that clean widget only clears filtering effects produced by the component itself and is ineffective against dashboard level filters. Similarly, it supports both clean widget specific field and clean widget all. Let's do a quick test. How do we write a formula to calculate the total order amount when we need to add dynamic dimensions from the analysis area? Clear all filter effects from the component. Preserve the filter effects from the dashboard? Think about it. Option A has an issue. It's missing the square brackets for the dimension parameter. Even if the dimension is omitted, the brackets are still required. Otherwise, entering this formula directly into BI will result in an error. Option B has a problem. Since we need to add dynamic dimensions from the analysis area, we should use def add not def. Option C is incorrect, because we need to preserve dashboard filters. So we should use clean widget not clean. Therefore, the correct choice is option D.